Greetings and welcome to everyone to the Great North Pagan Podcast here. We're actually on location here on Thursday, April 19th, 2012. And man, I know it's been a while since the last episode, but we've been kind of busy lately if you haven't been watching on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on, in the area as well as with myself. So you have our apologies that this has been late coming up. But today we're in Fargo, North Dakota with someone who we're going to be interviewing today who is a crystal healer and a practicing druid and eclectic pagan. His name is Scott, and he's here with us. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
And we're going to take just a little break here, of course, for some music so you can get used to our screeching voices. And we'll be back with you shortly.
So be right back. And we are back. And so now we're here with Scott here, ready to talk about the crystal healing.
So, Scott, thank you for having us here at your lovely home. And first off, how did you get involved with paganism? How did you find yourself upon this spiritual path?
It was actually a dream I had in high school. I was driving home one day to this poorly monitored intersection. Looked, no one was coming. I started to pull it. All of a sudden, this red sports car slams to the passenger side of my door, sends my car rolling, and in the dream, piece of metal, something broke off from the car, pierced my left side, and pretty much killed me in the dream.
Wow.
Ugh.
So I had driven that. I always drove that route home. I drove it home for a couple weeks after the dream, not a problem. And then one day, it just all of a sudden, as I start to pull in the intersection, I hit cold sweats, almost a panic attack, and I just slam on the brakes. And just as I do that, a red sports car going at least 60 on this 25 just pulled right on past me, and it was.
Oh my gosh!
So I started to do some research in religion because I was raised Lutheran, confirmed Lutheran, but I mean it was never really felt anything. So I started researching it. Never heard the term before. Found myself, I think it was like about.com or something like that on the Wicca page.
Okay.
So I started looking at that. I mean, thinking back on it, I mean, it was basically divine inspiration, if you want to use that word. It was, you're not meant for that life you're living now, so it's going to end one of two ways. You're going to find out where you're supposed to be, or we're just going to jumpstart you on the next one.
So kind of like a spiritual epiphany then.
Yeah.
That's quite an interesting tale. Yeah, I could certainly probably agree with you there. That would definitely make.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, some of us have those dreams that it's like just like a sign practically.
And I've died in dreams before, and I'll just wake up and go back to sleep. But I mean, this was the first one that cold sweat stuck with me, and I've had a reoccurrence of when I was awake, just going through the exact situation I dreamed of.
It's like a precognitive thing almost. You know, I think, Thomas, you probably agree with this even here. I think a lot of pagans, when we talk to them, they tend to have almost what I call it like a spiritual epiphany at some point. You see something, not necessarily as extreme as yours. I'm not trying to steal your thunder in any way, but, you know, it seems like something gets placed in our path that brings us into paganism in some way, shape, or form.
Well, yeah, I remember, I had a dream where I met this great lion once. Now, this was long years before I decided to become pagan, but it was kind of one of the building blocks, so I can greatly relate on that. Now, paganism as a spirituality is certainly a lifestyle like any other spirituality. What would you say, especially from the perspective of a member of the Druid tradition and personally developed practice, would you say is one practice or routine that consistently finds a place in your daily life?
That's actually easy. It would be conservation. I compost anything I can get my hands on. Recycle. That's constantly expanding as Fargo expands its ability to recycle. Reuse whatever I can. And it's little things like at my old job that I had, we used to be there long nights. Once a month we were there till midnight, so they started to feed us, but they always gave us styrofoam plates and plastic silverware. Well, that's garbage you're piling up that'll be there long after we're not walking this planet. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, it was something simple as I went down to a thrift store, bought a 50-cent ceramic plate, went to the cafeteria at work, borrowed a set of silverware, which I will return when I'm done or no longer employed. And I mean, and I just reused that. I was the only one that had an actual reusable plate, so I wasn't constantly throwing styrofoam in them. Waste bin every year.
Well, I find that really interesting too, and I think, even you mentioning that, conservation, I don't think a lot of people usually think of as a spiritual thing, but I think obviously us as pagans and being an earth-centered spirituality, regardless of the tradition you practice, I mean, it really is.
It is. I mean, some people stereotype it as like, being like a hippie thing, but really it isn't. We're just, helping the planet so that, we can, this world can live a little longer.
Well, and I think it kind of, maybe I'm kind of stretching it here, but it could even fall into, when churches do fundraisers and stuff to build and take care of their holy spaces. I mean, as we know as pagans, the entire earth is our holy space. So, yeah, that's very interesting, and I think that's something to keep in mind, because even myself, it wasn't until I was pagan when I find myself throwing away something I could recycle that now I have this like little nick, if you will.
Don't do that.
I should probably take care of that, So I think that's a good thing. So moving on here, so almost all pagans, to add, have some basic knowledge of the powers of stones and crystals, I think is fair to say. But I guess my question to you, being that you're a certified crystal healer, is how did you come about embracing that as a larger area of expertise, and why?
Honestly, luck. I remember when I was little, I always wanted to be a doctor. I was always getting my hands on medical books that, whatever you could read. I remember highlighting them, marking them up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized what Western medicine entails, and not a fan of that. I've had more issues with doctors than I have with disease. So something that I started practicing personally was herbalism. I mean, I don't have any certification in that, but it's something I started practicing on myself. I got a couple reliable books on herbal medicine, and I started practicing them. And so I was one day, and I still hope to, get certified as an herbalist so I can start doing more with that and perhaps even giving out prescriptions or whatnot in herbs instead of chemicals.
Sure.
Yeah.
And one day I was on Etsy. There was a couple crystal vendors because I was trying to find a specific piece, and I can't remember what it was. Found a seller that was actually showing pictures of the very pieces she was selling. It wasn't just generic, these you don't know what you're getting. It was an actual, this is the piece you are getting. So I bought that, and then through her email, she had this, sign up for my newsletter. All right, cool. And then from there, she was starting up she is a certified crystal master, CCM. And she was starting up a online crystal healing certification. And at the time, it was basically her first year, her pilot year, I guess you could call it.
Sure.
So it was pay as you go format. It was pay for each class. So I signed up for that and started doing that and went through the program on that and saw it through to the end, got my certification. And if it wasn't because I couldn't find the specific piece, and like I said, I can't remember what it was now, I never would have found that, never would have gotten the certification.
No, is this place that you went through then? Is that something where like any of the people interested listening could go and get the certification?
Easily, yes.
Okay.
It's and I assume any links I talk about you guys will throw up on the.
Oh yeah,
Of course. Yeah, we'll put it in the description.
It's
Yeah.
hibiscusmooncrystals.com.
Okay.
Okay.
And then one thing that I always seem to ask myself, and I hear from others as well. I mean, of course, you don't have to give us a massive explanation of what you had to do for the class, but I mean, is it quite? Would you say it's pretty extensive? I mean, is there a lot of homework and hands-on stuff that you have to do?
It is extensive. Stephanie, she goes by the name Hibiscus Moon.
Okay.
Her background is actually an earth science teacher.
Oh, really?
So she
appropriate.
taught that in high school. So she has the earth science background, and on top of that, she has the metaphysical energy teaching
That's
on there.
cool.
So the classes aren't just purely metaphysical, and it's not purely dry, boring science
Sure.
class. So the classes are actually very interesting. And then what it is, there are homework assignments. Early on, there was required homework assignments that she had to do. Those took some time. Then she went in favor of a quiz instead of the homework. She still gave homework at the end of every class, but it was optional.
Okay.
And I mean, I still ended up doing all of it because it's hands-on experience at that point is what she was trying to get you.
Yeah.
But then it was quizzes, and then at the end, her basically becoming a professional healer, crystal hero class. You have to write a review of the class and your feelings on it, and then you have to give 3 practice sessions.
Okay.
So once you get, I think it's like a 75% or an 80% on all the, or is it 90? I can't remember the exact percentage. Once you pass all the quizzes, you do your review and you give your practice sessions.
Okay.
That's pretty much it then.
You just proved yourself then.
Yeah, and I'm assuming what you're saying sounds like a lot like a online like college course.
It is.
Yeah.
It's and she is accredited with a number of places. I know the big one is she's accredited with the World Metaphysical Association. I think it's the NCHAA is another one. I can't remember the acronym on that one.
Sure.
But she's with a lot of these national organizations that do accredit and certify the holistic healer. She is registered with a lot of them.
Okay.
And I know that her class too, it's so thorough and in depth that if you are a massage therapist, her classes actually count as extra study hours.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's very good to know. Very cool, actually. Before we move on here, I have one more question that escapes me. Gosh darn it. Well, if it comes back to me, then I'll mention it. I guess we can move on.
Well, then, what exactly would you say is the basic practice and purpose of crystal healing from your perspective?
Well, what the purpose is, it's everything in pretty much existence, especially things that occur in nature, which ranges from crystals to us as living human beings, have an electrical field around us. You could call this your aura. It goes by a bunch of names, and it's been shown there is evidence that your aura, how your aura is acting, how strong it is, how clean it is, can affect you, because it's shown that your cells are porous and that it is possible for the energies around you and within your aura to permeate throughout you and affect your body. So what crystal healing does is it affects the energies around there. Each crystal has its own aura on there, and it's interesting. Some of the pictures in this class through her slide deck actually shows the EMF, the Kirlian photos of crystals, and each one has its own aura and its own properties, and you use those. Some of the big ones are like body layouts. I got a massage table, so what I do is I'll have the client lie down, depending on what they're looking at or what they're afflicted with. I'll select the crystals and I'll lay them around them in a pattern to try to affect their energy field.
I was wondering about that, because when I went to Fargo Rocks to record of Joy's Crystal Singing Bowl, they mentioned how the fact that some stones, some can be charged, some don't have to be, some will have different effects.
And I like to see, to mention you with that, I like hearing when we start seeing more of, not necessarily the explanation, but how to word this. The stuff that used to be claimed, as hocus pocus, and this is just a bunch of wishful thinking. Now in our day and age, it's so grand to see that you're seeing science match up with what they might call mysticism or the occult, and it's starting to prove one another.
Yeah, you've now got Miss Cleo and Egon Spengler actually agreeing on stuff. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lining up even with I know me being involved more with the ceremonial magic community at times, like the concepts that go with quantum physics and stuff like that, even for explanations and using some of that knowledge on building how magic and stuff works. I think to me it's more of just proof that we aren't all a bunch of crazies running around.
Yeah.
And hearing that about this coursework of yours too.
Well, we still might be a bunch of crazies running around. We're just right in regards to that.
Yeah. Well, I remember growing up, learning so much about science, especially mine was astronomy, how that could just link up so much with astrology, that there was actually meaning with the stars, as well, just that they're just not big balls of gas out there, that they actually do have a purpose.
And to even add to that, I think when I did a workshop with John Michael Greer several months ago, he made a good point about how, when the time that the scientific method came on the scene, there was a lot of this concept of like, we need to get rid of all this junk. And so the baby was thrown out with the bathwater for a lot of these practices like sacred geometry and even a lot of what we know about even astrology and stuff like that. And I'm no scholar in the whole thing, but I know the nice thing to see is that this meeting up is causing scholars that maybe used to just be academics start going, and like what you said, astronomy has a lot to do with astrology, and the dust is being taken off and reclaiming a lot of this stuff. And it's
but I mean, there is a slight downside to that from what I can see, and just getting back to the herbalism where I started from, it's using that treatment. Science is now finding like there's a lot of chemicals in the herbs that may be commonly used as a witch or as a pagan that actually do affect the body. I mean, a common one, like white willow bark, has the same chemical compound as aspirin. The downside is, however, a lot of these places are figuring this out and charging an arm or a leg for stuff. If you know what you're doing, you can go out and harvest for next to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think where it comes in the importance of why we even see even those that are not pagan, this practice of holistic health is becoming so large in especially the Western culture because of that fact of, why go buy something that's going to cost me an arm and a leg when I can grow it in my backyard? I just have to wait a month,
Well, and then, I mean, and a lot of the Western medicine, too, it has a list of side effects. This will cure your high blood pressure, may cause blindness, may cause permanent erectile dysfunction, may cause restless leg syndrome, may cause irritable bowel, may cause death. However, we have this new pill which will offset the death side effect.
The death side
Yeah.
yeah. You probably won't die. This makes your probability of living far higher. Yeah. That's a good point, though, and I think that's true because even if you look at, like, I'm kind of digressing here, but even we look at other medical practices like chiropractor, there's so much that people will say that, quote unquote, they claim can be fixed. And I myself have gone to a chiropractor many times where I had lower back issues, and the doctor was willing to give me this high-powered pain reliever and muscle relaxant, and there's nothing we can do for you other than surgery. I go to a chiropractor for a month, and he snap, crackle, pops me, and I've been fine the rest of my life, And so it was the difference between let's dope you up with chemicals, or why don't we just twist you back and kind of use your body's natural way of healing,
But it also goes to a side effect. It's like one of the big tenets that my instructor pushed was you don't fully discredit the Western medicine, because if you have a major disease, crystal healing can help you, but it's not going to replace a lot of these things.
Yeah. It reminds me also when someone had thrown out a chart of foot reflexology, that massaging certain areas of the feet actually will help heal parts of your body.
Well, that's because everything, it's interconnected. It's one of the prime examples that I saw, and I can't remember where I heard this. It's our culture is treating the symptom, not the cause. It's like Viagra has its very specific effect, but the downside is that's usually a very early sign of more serious problems with your circulatory system. Yeah. So you're not actually treating what's causing it, you're just making sure your boy can get up and play when you want him to.
Well, and I think which is interesting with that, because if you look at indigenous cultures even, and you look at like Eastern medicines that still use a lot of the herbalism and stuff, that even the old school shamans would say that we aren't trying to treat the effects of this quote unquote baneful spirit, where we're politely trying to push it away or usher it away or get rid of the cause of it, not the effect.
We're not trying to make it so you can drown him out. We're actually trying to send him on his merry way.
Yeah. And I think, to even note the comment that you made about with your teacher, where you don't want to completely ditch Western medicine. I think that as a broader scope is the way that I've always looked at everything, and I think we see that more, is that you don't want to necessarily, again, throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Exactly.
You want to use both, and that's, of course, basically, I guess what I'm getting at is keep a healthy skepticism on both sides of the fence.
And it's a personal choice on what that balance you want to make. There will be people that will always discredit holistic medicine and will go 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Chemical, and there's also people that completely go the opposite direction. They'll never, and I'm kind of tend to fall under this one unless it's very severe, and not even see a doctor. I think the last time I went to a doctor was I thought I broke my foot.
Well, I think, I can even say that. I think those that tend to be a bit more holistically minded try to take, I'll only speak for myself here, but, what does that whole axiom of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I think kind of applies in more senses. If we, if every time I have an ache and pain, I'm dropping 3 Tylenol, I'm just building a tolerance to Tylenol. I'm not learning. What I'm missing too is teaching my body how to handle pain.
But something else you got to do with that, it's learn from the lesson. Well, when I actually stabbed myself in the leg because I was putzing around with my knife, it didn't kill me. It made me stronger. So every time that heals over, I'm just going to keep stabbing myself.
That's interesting
That's
logic.
taking it to an extreme level.
But still, you also have to bear in mind those effects that prevent it at that point. Just because it didn't kill you doesn't mean you're better off for having gone through it.
Oh no, and I know what you're saying, and I in no way am I saying that that's the extreme. I'm not going to stab myself in the leg every time, but anyways, moving on here.
Moving on, yeah.
Please don't stab yourself in the leg.
Yeah, that's the
train's back on track. All
right. What are some of the recommendations you may have for those people who are just getting into the stones and crystals then?
The biggest thing that I can have out there, the biggest thing, and this is one I learned on my earlier classes, actually take the time to sit and learn with your stones. I'm not talking reading through a book and find out the properties. I mean, sit and meditate with them, even if it's just a couple of minutes a day. Just sit there, hold it in your hands, and learn it. I mean, one prime example is I'm an Aquarius, and I have just had that strong affinity to amethyst, which is the birthstone for that sign. And it's just I have 3 different amethyst clusters that each do a different thing. It's the same crystal, but what the crystal does, just from my working with them, has completely different effects.
So it'd be similar to like a resonance
Yeah.
that the stone has itself.
And it's actually learn your stones, your personal, physical, I own these, I found these, I paid for them, what to actually work and learn with them.
Okay.
Just don't go by what the book says, because that won't always be the case.
Just find one that's just comfortable with you.
Find one or a couple that are comfortable with you. There will be crystals that will not get along with you. Okay? I've had literally crystals. I actually I bought a chakra set. All of a sudden, one day, the quartz one, it was a tumbled quartz for the crown chakra. It went missing. I could not find that. I had a friend that called me up a few weeks later. She had just moved because I did a chakra balancing on her. She goes, well, did you give me this crystal? I was in the hospital because she was for something serious. I went, no. Her mother's a very, very devout Christian, sees these as evil and pagan. So I went, no. I'm not going to, risk exposing my friend to this while she's in the hospital. So I know. She said, well, can you come and take a look at it? Because I don't know what it does. And it was the tumbled quartz I was missing.
Huh.
I have no idea how she got it, but apparently she picked it up at the hospital, and it's just that one was apparently not supposed to be working with me. It's just literally.
I like her better.
Yeah. I'm going over here now.
That's pretty cool. And I think I want to even highlight more, what you said about the whole what resonates with you, because I think even in my own practice when I started on paganism and stuff, people have a tendency to go with this is what the book says, and there's that kind of fear of, well, this kind of feels like it should be, but the book says that it shouldn't be. And I think that Scott's giving a thumbs down.
I had huge issues with this by the book. I mean, another tangent here. When I started in paganism, I was 16. This was 13 years ago. I wasn't 18. I was still a minor. There was really no pagan groups in my hometown. So I tried, at least learn where I went. So I went onto the Yahoo chat rooms to the religion. Oh, look, paganism. So I went in there. 99% of the people wouldn't give me the frickin' time of day. Because even though I considered myself Wiccan, I didn't have lineage like every book claims you need. I could trace my lineage back to probably Gerald Gardner. I had one guy just took the time and says, what do you know? And I just literally went, well, I'm new. What do you want? He says, you want to take this seriously? Yeah. Scott Cunningham. Just get his Wicca books. Start from there. I mean, literally that was something else. Scott Cunningham, it says his big thing was do what works for you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He has his thing, and he flat out says, this may not work for you. That's fine. Do what works for you.
And that goes with any sort of book on any sort of thing that, the author just does their recommendation, but that doesn't mean that that's set in stone.
Yeah, but there are a couple where it's my way or the highway, especially in a lot of the major, and I'm going to completely avoid a tangent because I will rant and rave on this one. But there are certain elders, even in the pagan community, where it's their way or the highway, and it just doesn't work for anyone.
And I think you see, in to people listening, I mean, I know you've heard me and Thomas probably mention stuff like this before, and we could have, probably multiple episodes on arguments back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
And in no ways are we knocking that, lineage is horrible and that it needs to be all eclectic and stuff like that. But I think to come back to highlight what Scott is saying and myself and Thomas is noting with us is it's all about what I like to use as resonance. What works for you? What resonates with you? Because there's stones and certain techniques that I even use that I could look in a book or talk to somebody and it may do the exact opposite for them. But for whatever reason, it just works with me. And that's important because I think that's what I always try to tell people is when you hear intuition, when we start to really work with our intuition, it's rather than working from the outside in, we're working from the inside out. And that's really difficult to do in our culture, especially now, because everything is based upon what do these people think of me? What should I be doing? What do I see? Rather than going, what feels right to me and going about that.
Much like fashion, it's not what the trend is, it's what fits for you.
Exactly. And I think that's difficult. And I think in paganism especially, maybe you guys can agree or disagree, is I think that's one of the greatest hurdles for someone who isn't raised in paganism, because you have to learn at some level to work from the inside out and trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to try and do what you think you should be doing all the time, you're never going to find what.
But to an extent, though, I think the people that find their way to paganism from a lot of the organized religions out there, your Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever, are already kind of predisposed to doing what feels right for them. If they're worried about what everyone thinks about them, they won't even start one.
That's a good point. Yeah, I could say that. And again too, I could even add on that. As much as the attitude of us when we have these sometimes can sound like we have this angst towards the Judeo-Christian religions, that doesn't mean necessarily that.
It doesn't
mean that doesn't mean that you should necessarily get rid of those practices.
No, of course not. It's just that
I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just that sometimes they've been given such a bad name.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't mean they're wrong by any stretch of the imagination.
Don't give them out. I mean, my first incarnation of the Book of Shadows before I got thrown out, I mean, I had 8 of the 10 Christian commandments in there. I didn't include basically the first 2. I'm the Lord your God, and thou shalt have no other gods before me, which the second one actually makes polytheism in Christianity possible, by the way. But I mean, it's just everything else. It literally fits. I mean, these 8 words the Rick Range fills, as it harm none, do what thy wills. It's literally, those are just very good rules to fit. Well, I don't want to hurt anyone. Well, don't steal from them.
Yeah.
I mean, even some of my favorite quotes, like one of my big quotes here, give me a sec here. I mean, one of the quotes I actually like about religion, especially when people may, you worship the devil, you worship Satan and whatnot. This is
never said that.
Yeah. This is actually from the Quran. The worshippers of the All-Merciful are they who tread gently upon the earth, and when the ignorant address them, they simply reply, peace.
Something.
That's a good quote. And I think, to even add to that, in no sense of the word, I think when we get down to many of the spiritualities, if not all of them, that if we can get to the core of what they're trying to say is, even the Judeo-Christian one's a very beautiful religion. It's just you have the human factor added into it.
Yeah.
I like your Christ. I do not like your Christian.
Very much.
Like your Christ.
Yeah, that was Gandhi, wasn't it? Yeah. Was there anything else you would like to add before we move on here?
I could talk at length for any topic ahead of me, so if we want to keep this at a reasonable time and not make this a marathon session, I recommend we just move on.
Well, I'm assuming that you offer crystal healing consultations, since now you've gotten a lot of knowledge now. How would someone, if, in the audience that's listening right now, be interested in receiving healing with stones or crystals, get in contact with you?
I'm currently in the process of getting a website set up. It's not set up now. I just got my certification a couple weeks ago, so now I'm going through all of the starting up a new business stuff. So the website isn't up yet, but there are a couple email addresses. You can reach me at GaiasGrove1, that's the number 1, at gmail.com. That's kind of my more business-related one. I also have reverend.greenhat at gmail.com.
Okay, and those 2 websites then would be the ones that they should get, or websites, emails.
Email addresses.
And we'll link those, of course.
You'll find it in the description.
Do you, I guess, do you offer, we have quite a number of listeners here in Fargo and in the greater area. Is there any place in town that you've kind of like Fargo Rocks or 12 Houses or that you go to offer these? I mean, could they talk to somebody there? Would they be able to go, yeah, we can get a hold of them?
I'm actually I actually have ordered some business cards, and I plan on dropping them off Fargo Rocks. I mean, they actually kind of, it's scary. They know me on a first name basis there, which makes my wallet cry. And then like 12 houses and the places like that, I drop them off. I don't have like a center of business yet. What I'd like to do is eventually set up something either with a store in town like Fargo Rocks or whatnot on a periodic basis. I know Fargo Rocks now has a kind of a backroom area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See if I can't reserve that and then advertise, I'll be providing crystal healing from this time to this time on this date.
Okay.
Contact them or me to sign up for a session. Same with 12 houses. But I don't have anything yet. Depending on the situation, I might be able to be talked into possibly heading out to help people.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, of course, to the people listening, if for whatever reason you want to get a hold of Scott for this crystal healing or even a consultation, and for some of the talking of Druidism we're going to have after our break coming up here, you can always get a hold of Thomas. Email him. I would say get a hold of Thomas because he's the guy that facilitates this whole thing.
Yeah, greatnorthpagan@live.com.
And he'll make sure that he hooks you up with that. As well as Scott is also the assistant organizer of the Lake Agassiz Pagan Community, which you can find that at www.meetup.com. So if you're part of that or would like to become part of that and get a hold of Scott, he's just Scott.
Scott W.
Scott W, that's right.
Yeah, there we go.
And he's one of the assistant organizers. You can find him in like the left bar of the meetup page.
I help run the asylum.
Yes, and you do a fine job of it, sir.
Yeah, and
I only had one prisoner escape.
Yeah.
Well,
that
and
was not pretty.
And if you go and look in the ritual section, because he was the main head of the live and bulk ritual.
That's right. So if you want to see him in action, you can check that out as well. So I think we're going to take a break here. We're going to give you some music, and when we come back, we're going to be delving in a little bit to have Scott talk to us about his practice in Druidism and stuff to do with that. So we'll see you in a few.
All right.
Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our heart. Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our heart. Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our heart. Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our heart. Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our heart. Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our heart. Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flowing to the ocean.
And we're back.
Welcome back, guys. We're going to talk now with Scott and amongst ourselves. I find it fascinating that you are a practitioner of a branch of Druidism. Not going to lie. This is a tradition of paganism that I've seen grow a lot in the passing years, especially as far as the large established organizations go. And it certainly is a tradition in this area that I have not heard many speak of as one's personal practice, at least in the Fargo area. Would you mind telling us a bit about the tradition that you are currently studying and a member of?
About the AODA? Yeah, sure. Like all good things in America, it started in Britain.
Of course.
There was a revival in 1874. They first kind of got together, and these were people that were interested in doing a revival, and it was a big hush-hush thing at the time, because granted, they no longer had the Inquisition, however, you still weren't open about it, so they got together, and what eventually came from those backroom meetings was the Ancient Archaeological Order of Druids, the AAOD. So they went through practice and then at the time, the big secretive group that almost everyone wanted to emulate were the Masons.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So in 1886, 12 years later, they changed their name to the Ancient Masonic Order of Druids. Downside was, if you weren't a Mason, there's the door.
Yeah, because the Freemasons was just a really secretive group for the most part, weren't they?
Yep. And they were really, even today they're still pretty secret. They're more open about it, but they're still not, here we are.
Yeah.
Come to our bake sale.
Well, the interesting thing, like you mentioned, even that comes a lot from like the lodge mentality traditions of all these different groups that were essentially initiatory only type things.
And then came to America, James Manchester. In 1912, he was a Mason, got a charter startup in Boston.
Huh.
So we're 100 years old. Woo!
Happy anniversary!
They were big again on the Mason thing because that was the thing at the time. There was, throughout their history, there were some issues with the actual Masonic temple.
Lodge,
the big one in America, because the Druidic order were accepting women.
Okay.
That's the big issue that they had. And so they've kind of went with that. They did their own thing. They weren't part of the Mason temple, but they...
I got you. Being that they were kind of a seed group off the parent.
These aren't secrets. Literally, this information that I'm speaking is on the AODA website. So don't think I'm going to come and have to worry about getting drug off in the middle of the night.
Black helicopters flying over.
I wonder where the hell they got the funding for black.
Oh, wait. It'd be druids and ghillie suits.
Yeah.
Right?
On horseback.
Chancing.
Yeah. I'll get drugged through the street
And
by
the papers
horseback.
the next morning, man chased on horseback. Oh, man.
Chase? Hell no. Look at me. I don't run. I'm getting trampled. Woo, back on topic.
Yeah.
And then in the 50s, there was kind of a, not really a restructuring. At the time for the rituals, there was a lot of penalties if you had done stuff wrong. Mm-hmm. One of the archers at the time, Julian Ashley, was big and did a lot of work into trying to get the rituals, well, not tame them down, but don't make the penalties, the negatives, so strict, because I mean, any organization where you have those penalties, I mean, heck, I was in the Boy Scouts, and I used to hear about the things that would happen if you'd mess up in the Order of the Arrow, so
if you didn't do a ritual properly, you'd get punished for it?
I don't really know on that. That's not something that's really in the history books anymore, because it's something I haven't really heard about. I mean, I'm still going through my candidacy year.
Yeah.
So I'm not even... I'm still... So as I advance in it, I'll probably learn more, but...
Because nowadays, when you do a ritual, it's you usually have various ways of doing it. There's no real wrong way.
And that's the big thing. I mean, that was what, starting with Julian Ashley was trying to do, was move those restrictions, move it out there, and then since then, it's been more and more kind of personalized. I mean, I mean, even the current Archdruid, John Michael Greer, is big on the... I mean, one of the phrases, he said that no two AODA druids will worship the same way. And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, spirituality is a very, very personal thing. And that's something else that drew me to paganism. It's not, I'm sitting on a wooden bench an hour and a half a week while some guy in a fancy black suit tells me how the hell I'm supposed to live. It's, I find out for myself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think, where I think we can go with this conversation that I want to highlight on is I think when I've talked to people, before I even go, AODA means what?
The Ancient Order of Druids in America.
Okay, because I know the big druid organizations, ADF, OBOD, they love their acronyms. Me being involved with the ADF, which is the Arn Riach Féin, you've probably heard me mention that a score of times. I think the biggest thing, and I know that the ADF notes on this a lot, is people's confusion in that aren't in the Druidism between the old school Celtic Druids and what is modern day revivalist Druidism, because there is a big difference. Would you care to
There is.
on that?
The big difference is we have no idea what the ancient druids were about. I mean, one quote I was actually looking up, because you put it in my head, I was looking up that Spinal Tap speech about the druid skills.
Yeah.
Because it would work here. Unfortunately, a lot of the records, when Rome and Catholicism moved into generally what is considered the Celtic lands, Scotland, Ireland, England, a lot of that stuff was pretty much wiped out. And one of the big things about Druids is they had a lot of influence.
Yeah.
Well, you're an invading army. You want to control the people, you get rid of their leaders.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, a lot of the Druids were more than likely killed off.
And you make it so that nobody else can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More than
get
likely
rid
were
of
killed off.
all their
I mean,
books and all that.
I mean, literally, some of the earliest writings we have of the Druid is like a side note Caesar put in a book.
Yeah, I think that's from the Gaelic Wars, actually.
And it was like 2 lines on them. That was like the earliest surviving
These
records.
guys would lead everybody, kill them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note, because, and a reason why I bring it up is not only for that understanding, but I think, to me, Druidism, as far as the term neo-paganism goes, is a perfect example of when... This is my own opinion here. Is when we look at neo-paganism, it's that we're taking inspiration from an ancient people and from our ancestors, and we're making something that is modern and relevant to us now. So it's not ancient itself, but it's based upon ancient knowledge.
It's kind of like it's evolved in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah, as much as I would, I am stuttering. As much as I would like to get as close to old Druidry is, there's a lot of speculation they practiced human sacrifice. Well, I'm not going to do that, and I'm not too keen on living in a.
No Wicker Man reference for you? Or?
My garden grows just fine. Maybe if I have a bad year, I'll look at it the next one. But and it's just, there are modern conveniences I like. I am a fan of electricity. Granted, I'm like getting rid of like the television, all that. No, that can go. I don't need that. But lights.
Yeah, a flushable toilet. Oh my God!
Actually, I'd be comfortable with an outhouse and a well pumped up.
In the middle of winter, I have to admit, I would prefer an inside toilet, and not a chamber pot, mind you. But
see, but that's the big difference. Is I actually enjoy my winter. I like cold, which is why you've known me this. I was going nuts this winter because it was so freaking mild.
Yeah, I was enjoying it so much the fact that I could get my fire pit going in December and January when it was barely anything down.
Don't get me wrong, I like winter, but I did miss it. So sorry.
Hey, give me my snow. Give me my cold. That's the one thing I liked about Boy Scouts when I was in it was we did this earlier. We did the middle of freaking winter
camping.
Igloo. Oh,
yeah.
That was fun.
I've done that a few times. That is enjoyable, I do admit. Back to what we were talking about, though, with the neo. I just wanted to add, some people comment sometimes, because neo-paganism was the term, I think, a very common term for paganism before, and then it's kind of changed, and everybody just uses paganism. I like to discern between the two. Not because I think there's a real difference necessarily, but I like when I speak of Druidism or Wicca or, I should say some of the Wiccan traditions. I probably just pissed off a few people, but when they're like I said before, when they're something that has been based on ancient practices and made to be modern for us now, to me that is new. That is technically new.
Well, personally, the difference I found was the people that claim that they come directly from, their religion comes directly from, hundreds of thousands of years ago, predating Christianity, called themselves pagans because they weren't new. Anyone else that wasn't following their way, well, they're just making crap up. We'll call them neo-pagans.
There's definitely a lot of that.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see this, and we're trying to keep it PG, but I am showing my displeasure with a common hand gesture.
Hand gesture that's not found in the Book of Shadows.
No, the AODA, correct me if I'm wrong, like you said, there was kind of a point in there where it almost died out, right? The Origin Order of Druids in America until Greer came along, if I understand.
Well, it wasn't really dying out per se. It's just a lot of the people that would replace the Grand Archdruid, the top of the order, were declining because they were already so advanced in age.
Yeah.
They just said, we can't really handle it, and it's just he comes along, he's interested, and he.
Because I know when I did that seminar with him, that's when I first found out a lot about the AODA, and some of the stories he told were really really funny.
That's I haven't. I heard rumors. This is just rumors that they're trying to get him for Pagan Pride Day this year in Farwin. Hey, my God! I will be talking the man's ear off if he actually does show up. But it's just, like I said, it's just, and I'm still studying Druidism the same way I did Wicca. I don't have an actual flesh and blood teacher. I don't have that book yet.
Yeah.
And so it's just, as I'm learning this, and the books I read don't come solely from Greer and other AODA authors. It's I am a druid, and one of the things that the AODA does encourage, it's branching out into other organizations.
Yeah.
I might eventually show up in the ADF.
Yeah. And I think you see that a lot of the common Druidism movement. That's even because I started out originally in the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids and moved into the ADF. Now, I'm no longer with the old boat, but even they encourage that, and the ADF encourages that. Like you said with the AODA, they encourage that. And I know I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know there's a couple smaller orders that.
It's the best.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. Because my knowledge about Greer is only so much, but how did he start it out? Did he do some proper research? Did he?
I don't know too much on that. I really haven't researched Greer's background, but I knew he did a lot of research into it because he was big in translating.
He was he was actually trained by the last, if correct me, I may be wrong on the specifics, but by the last Grand Archdruid of the AODA. Like basically, from what he told us when I took the seminar, because I asked him, he said he sent an email because he had heard about it, and it went out, and he didn't hear back for like 6 months, and he just expected it was lost and never land. And next thing you know, he gets this phone call, and it's this older gentleman. This older gentleman's just tickled pink, and he's like, he basically went from, Greer to saying, I want to know more about it, to this guy going, if you want to run this, I would be absolutely happy to put you through and teach you every single thing and put you through our practice. So he actually, from what I understand,
he did
took the years, several years, and learned it all.
He would have had
from that guy.
I mean, he would have had. In fact, I hope he did, because I don't like people just like, hey, look, a pedestal. Why don't you stand upon it? No,
because that just sounds like just a miracle that someone that had all that knowledge after all those years had run into him on that.
That's something else that I've noticed. I mean, in paganism, back, when I was Lutheran, in between the time I went that and I was an atheist, and I was just a complete jackass. It's just something I found out. It's the thy will be done.
Yeah.
I mean, they were literally at the time looking for a new Grand Archdruid. The other guy was looking to step him down because he was getting up in there in age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other people that were eligible for it went, no, thank you. We're too old ourselves. And then.
Yeah. And from Greer's background, even like you said, the man is actually very impressive. And I was going to comment, meeting him and I think when most people think of Druids, they think of that old painting with the guy in the big white robe and he's got the long white beard. I mean, you can't mention Druid without somebody thinking of a bearded male, I think.
Yeah.
Glorious beard, Scott.
Here's I'm the old man out, shaped face.
Greer, you meet Michael Greer, and he's got this big long beard, but he's just the most laid back guy. But he's been involved with the Masons and ceremonial magical lodges, and he can read. I think can read Latin and all these. I mean, the man is just impressive. I mean, and he's even said he's like, I have so many technical titles, I just don't even mention them.
I would.
And he's not egotistical about it at all.
No,
I would love to have that where he just has all the time
just all that stuff on his resume.
I mean, the man will melt your brain. I'm not even kidding. And I mean, I remember we went out and got some drinks with him, and he was just phenomenal to talk to. But even going back to all these organizations, another thing that I find fascinating about Druidism, neo-paganism, Druidism nowadays compared to, let's say, Wicca, is it's so big on like a massive organization, and I shouldn't say a massive, but a public organization. I mean, the AODA, the ADF, the OBOD, all it is a matter of registering and going through whatever their training program is, and they're all proctored, and you all have specifics that you have to go through.
And I mean, like, I know on the AODA, you check out the website, they will tell you ahead of time what to get initiated to the first level, what your requirements are, what it is to get into the second. It's not, I mean, it's, like I said, it's not Masonic anymore. I mean, they are upfront about what it is, and I mean, all of the information's out there. I mean, the Druidery handbook, one of John Michael Greer's book, one of the first ones I read on the subject. I mean, he literally just lays everything out in a book you can go to Amazon.
Yeah, I believe that's the first year of the training that's the main course book, isn't it? The Druidery handbook. I haven't actually read that in its entirety, but the ADF is very similar. Even the OBOD, I think, is probably the one that's, I wouldn't say the most extensive, but they have a male training course, and they have a 3-tier program, and each one takes about a year. But you have like a mentor you have to talk to. You have certain things that you have to complete. The ADF has what they call their dedicant path, and that takes about a year to do. You have to do and even with the AODA, it's extensive.
Yeah, I mean, the AODA, it's like you get 1 year for your first level minimum, and then it's 2 years minimum for your second. Your third, it's year minimum, but the way it's described, it's taking longer than that. And one thing I like about the AODA, it's broken down. I mean, most Druidic organizations, they have their Ovate, their Druid, and their Bard tenets. It's like, originally I was going for Ovate and Druid. I'm now probably throwing Bard on there. I'll probably shoot for all three. But it's like, I have a question on Druidism because, you're supposed to have this religious practice. So I contacted, they just have their generic contact us page. And so it's like, here's my situation. It turns out I've probably been a Druid for the past 2 years just based off of my practice. Because the first book I saw was at one of the LAPC meetups. Is at the saw one out at Jeff's place. They've brought a book on Druidism. I went, well, that looks really interesting. So I wrote down the name and I searched on Amazon. I got a couple because I'm wired weird. And the book was like $10. So with shipping would have been like 15, but I refused to pay for shipping, so I bought $25 worth of books.
I'm the same way.
To get the free shipping.
Yeah, get the free shipping on Amazon.
And so it's like, and John Michael, the Druidy Handbook was one of them, so I started reading through that, and it's just, I forgot where I was going.
Well, no, and not, I think even with us talking, you're talking about, it's hard to relay exactly what to expect in these orders without actually going and looking yourself.
Actually, I do remember where I was going, but as far as it goes, so I contacted the order saying, this is what I've been doing. Will this count for my apprenticeship as Druid? And so I sent this off back to Cal. I got the response from John Michael Greer, is the one that actually responded to my email. So I don't know how big his name is. I've only recently heard his name. He's not. You hear all these big names, but they're almost always tied to Wicca. So I don't know how big his name is, but the organization for the AOD is big, but it's not so big that the top guy won't take the time to answer an email of someone that actually has a question.
Yeah, which is cool because all of them are structured different. And even going back to kind of how organizations work. I'll speak from the ADF's perspective because that's the one that I'm the most fluent in. But the ADF works off of that. You have, they have a mother grove, and that's the main organization. But what makes up the body of the practice is you then have these seed groves that come off of it that are other places. And then from those, even lesser than the seed groves, you might have study groups. And I know that in AODA they have something similar to that, like a seed group or something like that.
They do. They have study groups. But one of the big things I actually liked about the AODA was the ADF, I was taking a look at them, they seemed very big on belonging to a grove.
Yes.
AODA, not so much. Just based off of the fact that when I started paganism, I was stuck on my own. I was never initiated, so I was always this, pretender.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. I was always a solitary practitioner. And I will probably be that way till the day I die. Not to mention the AODA is also a lot more accepting of, like I said, the variations. One of the big things, one of the tools I still use since I switched from Wicca Druid is my Athame. That's not a tool that you'll see in Druidism, but I've had this for a couple of years. I put energy into it. It is how I direct my energy. And and one of the big things about Robe, it's kind of more structured formal. Well, you have that, get rid of that. And no, I use it. It works for me. Because that was one of the big things. It's like we were talking about activating crystals, and my instructor always said, have a nice quartz one, nice little decent piece of quartz, because quartz is just a nice crystal, and since it's clear, it can work for everything. I don't use a crystal wand to activate my crystals. I will actually take my Athame when I cleanse them and activate them with that.
Well, then here's maybe another good question for you then that I'm sure people are wondering. Being that you have such a background in both in Wicca and now in Druidism, what would you say from your perspective are the similarities? What are the differences?
Well, the big difference that I find out, it's religion versus reverence.
Okay.
Wicca it's a religion. It feels, honestly, when I was doing Wicca, it felt like church. Putting on, everything was ceremonial, casting the circle.
You're talking about the set structure.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair to say.
Well, even Druidism has that set structure, but it's more of a reverence. It's getting back to, you asked me, what's one of the big faith in it. It's, my recycling, my compost, and all that stuff. And it's just more formal. Or not formal, excuse me, opposite, informal. It's not like the word flammable. They don't mean the same thing. After a few years, I never really cast a circle unless I was unless I was doing something big like a banishment,
Yeah.
I'll throw up a circle. I've always thrown one up on Samhain just because that's not if anything's going to be out there lurking.
Yeah.
And it's just when you would expect or anticipate something may interfere.
So more for protection.
Yes, then I would do it, but I'm not doing it every single time.
So that would be the big difference, you would say, from one of them between Wicca and Druidism. Okay. What else could you say that? I mean, I know you're only going off. I'm not looking for speak for all the Druids and the Wiccans of the world.
I'm not. This is me. This is Scott speaking for me. Okay. There's actually a lot of similarities. Like I said, I was Wiccan, and slowly it just kind of slowly evolved. I mean, I still have. I literally consider this one of the old school Wiccan facts. Mm-hmm. It's like when I started studying, there was the goddess and the god. Those were your divine.
The Daltheism. Duality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Divine masculine, divine feminine, goddess, god, mother, son, lovers, whatever. That was pretty much it. But nowadays, like every Wiccan will worship particular deities. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You'll have, your Pan and Aphrodite, your
Odin and Freya.
Thank you. I was Freya. That was like Odin and who the heck was Odin? Oh, Freya. Thank you. Yeah. And it's just
that makes me cringe though. But you can continue on. Go ahead.
Well, not his counterpart, but like another big one from that path.
No, just continue because
I can see you cringe. Those
go ahead.
And it's just. That's something that I've carried over. But Druidism, from what I understand, has always kind of had the specific deities. But I don't work with specific. I never have.
You just kind of just go with just a Lord Lady, and that's
it's. Part of my belief is we cannot comprehend the divine. It's just something we're not wired for. So
you just recognize it as a higher power.
The what I call it, the personification of the two. That's where you start getting your Aphrodite, your Freyas, your...
Similar to almost like an archetype.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Okay.
And it's just, they're very similar, but they also have their differences. Druidism feels more informal, but it also feels like it's... what did I say?
No, when you said Judaism, I was like, I didn't know you were Jewish.
Druidism.
No, go ahead.
Druidry. That's the word I was going for. I kind of... It feels more like a lifestyle than it does a religion.
Which I can see where you're coming from there. I know Thomas, you're Wiccan, and I that's where I started to. I think a lot of people start with that, and I know the big difference that I saw too is I can kind of agree with what you're saying. There tends to be, there's always an exception to the rule, of course.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at more of your traditional, except for probably Cunningham. Stuff mainly. You have kind of this is what's said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where the Druidism they do have. I remember in the Oboe there was a casting of the circle, but the interesting thing that I thought with that, and I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to say this, but anyways, is there's a cross point. Mm-hmm. You have where you create this plus sign. And it's like X marks the spot.
Yeah, it's
and so it's interesting because in ADF, I know when we did the one Samhain ritual, we did one that for the LAPC. Excuse me, for those who are listening. That was based off ADF structure. They don't even use a circle; they use a focal point, and So,
but that's actually kind of what it was too. With
at least we're speaking strictly on a ritual ceremony.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the M-Block Candlemas ritual. It for the most part was a druidic ritual. Yeah. We didn't cast a circle, but one of the big things that they do is they call peace in the four directions.
Yeah.
Just to call. That's great. It's something short. It's something quick. And it's kind of more of an informal flow thing to it. It's not the whole invoking of the quarters, casting the circle, lighting the candle. It's like there was some rituals I did in Wicca where it took me more time to set up and take down my circle than it did for the actual.
Yeah, and I think to even add where at least from the Oboe, from what I remember of it. And I can't speak for the AODA, but from what you're saying, it sounds like it is. And this isn't. I'm not saying that Wicca isn't this way, but as far as Druidism goes, it seemed more like it was a philosophy.
Yeah.
It's like Buddhism is. It's more of a way of living your life day to day than any sort of grand and how you connect with that, especially the oboe. And I think, I forget where I was going with that. I'll come back to me. Anyways.
just so the audience out there does think, we're not ripping into Wiccans. I mean, if it works for you, if you have found your faith, congratulations. Yeah. You're ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It just unfortunately doesn't work for us. And I mean, like I said, I still carry Wiccan aspects in my belief. Mm-hmm. I actually still have all of my Wiccan books, granted, like you said, with the exception of Cunningham, because he was more of the informal. Yeah. Guess what majority of my Wiccan books are written by?
Cunningham.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. And I think, too, even for me, to point out that we're not ripping into it, I mean, me sitting here talking with the three of us, we're all of three different paths. I'm a hardcore polytheist. But yet me and you are, and all three of us are sitting here talking just fine. So, that's just the proof that there's no reason why you can't debate.
But I mean,
it's just what works for all
But one
us as
thing
individuals.
that, I mean, I think Wicca does really, really well. Mm-hmm. They actually have a lot of good publishers with stuff that can actually be taken out. Because there is one book, Handbook for the Wiccan Clergy. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't find a lot of books on being pagan clergy.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually found this one off of a pagan blog I read a lot, and the author just said, I have all these books, I need to clear space. Mm-hmm. These are the books I'm selling. Contact me to purchase them. I contacted her, and I bought a couple books from her, and it is actually really important. And it says right in the book that it has the Wiccan feel to it, because it was written by a Wiccan author, but they said, don't be afraid if you are a pagan clergy from a different to use the stuff in here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it had a lot of stuff of like addressing people that come to you perhaps for counseling or whatnot in there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you know what? I'm not a Wiccan priest. I mean, I am a druid, I'm ordained, but I actually still read through that book every now and then. I'll pick it up and flip through it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's important to remember because, it's funny because when you mention interfaith, people always think of like separate religions, and if there's any struggling point, which I'm sure me and you, Thomas, have alluded to this in other ones before.
Oh yeah.
Is there really needs to be more interfaith just in paganism, and I think I see that happening more.
It's happening
because go ahead.
Yeah, because there's been the conflicts.
Yeah.
With how certain things should be done.
Yeah. And it's more of an acceptance that like it's okay. I'm not, we can, like I just said, we can sit here and debate about it and it's all right. Mm-hmm. It's just what works for us or what we practice.
Mm-hmm. But we also understand that each person's different, which is why I will probably never join a formal organization. I mean, I don't like one of the LAPC. We're talking about, open up study groups, possibly opening up, starting a Grove in Fargo. And if I do run that, hey, welcome to Informal City. But it's like the LAPC, it's informal. We have our group rituals. We had a Samhain, we had Candlemas.
We think we've done all the Sabbats at some given point.
Yeah,
at some point in time.
Had to have, but I wasn't there, unfortunately.
Holy days, holy tides, whatever you want to call them.
But I mean, it's still everyone's welcome, and I haven't heard too much of a fuss. And we even have, I mean, as a Druid, literally, I consider Earth Day just as important as the 8 Sabbaths. It is a religious holiday for me. Yeah. Thankfully, this year it runs on a Sunday, so I'm not, missing a day of work because I will take it off.
Yeah.
Because I still hold reverence for that day. I mean, and that's just my belief. Is every Druid going to go, well, this is one of the 9 holy days? No, but I do.
Well, I think it goes back again to what we were saying with all the way back to the beginning, the resonance, what works with you. And I could go on and on about things in even like the heathen community and different practices where days such as Veterans Day, it becomes a rite or so on and so forth, but not that anything that all of us are adding isn't good, but getting back on topic, I think, what are we looking at for time here, Thomas?
About 30 minutes, yeah.
Okay, so we should probably wind this down.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing that I have before we go here, how would, and you kind of maybe answered, but how would one go about finding more information about any of these Druid organizations that we've talked about?
Well, as we were talking about this out loud, we're not under the Inquisition anymore. We're no longer, for the most part, shunned for the community. Search engines are your friend. Bing, Google, Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to search. Like I said earlier, that's how I found my way to paganism, was internet searches. But I mean, the big one is like, I am AODA, so if I'm going to, recommend a site, it will be aoda.org.
Oh yeah, and if someone wants to ask questions, I'm sure can get a hold of you, right?
Oh yeah,
Ask
by all
question
means,
about the
get a
AODA.
hold of me.
And you're going to be there's going to be a Druidism study group that Scott's going to be getting going here with the LAPC
Yep.
in a little bit of time. I'm not going to put a time frame on you.
Thank you, because otherwise I'm going to have to find a way to create an 8th day in a week.
Yeah.
And make sure it actually falls on a weekend so my job doesn't try and snort another 8 hours
If
out
you
of me.
figure that out, let me and Thomas know,
Yeah.
because I'm sure we could use it.
I think it may not be fun. I think it may involve really odd sleep schedule.
Well,
I sleep 10 hours a day. Technically, I have an extra day awake. Well, that's fantastic. Can you think? No.
Well, Thomas will link in the bottom Scott's emails, as well as the other links that we mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the AODA website, the ADF website, and the OBOD website, if those interest you.
And I'll also give Thomas a link to the Crystal Academy that I went through.
Yeah.
So if you have more questions there.
Okay. So I guess with that, then you can contact again Scott at gaiasgrove1@gmail.com and or at reverend.greenhat@gmail.com.
Reverend.greenhat.
Reverend.greenhat, I stand corrected. Again, we'll link those.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to know more about the services he offers, get a hold of him, and I'm sure he would love to talk to you.
The main services that I currently offer, it's, like I said, crystal healing with body layouts. Another big thing is chakra balancing. I can also cleanse spaces. And I'm also an ordained reverend. I am legally clergy. So if you are looking for perhaps someone of a more druidic faith to perhaps run a ceremony for you, marriage, hand fasting, whatever you like to call it, or anything along those lines.
Life transition
Life
ceremony.
transition. Yep, definitely let me know.
Sure. Alrighty, well, Scott, thank you so much for being with us, and hopefully we can have you back again sometime.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
And I'm Grant.
Yep. And then just kind of a tradition, we'll mention about some of the things that we have that's coming up
Oh,
here.
of course, sorry.
Yeah. 'Cause-
I am Grant, anyways.
yeah, but that's Grant anyway, yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
But yeah, we got Beltane's course coming up here. On the 29th of April, the U Church in Fargo is having the Beltane service like we did last year, and then on May the 12th, the Pagan Meetup is doing their Beltane service at the studio in Castleton.
LAPC.
The LAPC. Mm-hmm. It'll be the 4th time that the Maypole has danced in that backyard. So it's kind of been a return to tradition in a sense. So that, I know, I'm kind of showing off the whole
Quite
bit.
an ecstatic back.
I know, it's kind of a stats thing, but yeah, and I know if you've been noticing that we've been also starting a video blog with some of the things that happened with Joy's singing bowl, and then also the Celtic Fest that I went and attended as well.
Well, I'm sure they can check back for the video blog. You're going to be doing other events around the area, correct?
Oh yeah, that's coming up in the area too. Because
Yeah,
I know.
so keep your eyes peeled for that, of course.
So keep on that, but yeah, that should wrap that up for that. So.
You guys have anything else you'd like to add, Scott?
Not really. And one thing I want to point out is, in addition to the Druidic study group, or Druidy study group that I'm starting up with the LAPC, I stuttered. It's me.
All right. Whew.
There are a number of other study groups that will be popping up recently, so...
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. There's going to be quite a number of study groups and reoccurring events that are going to be taking place with the LAPC. If you are part of the LAPC, there are a few groups that we do need what we call facilitators for. Basically, you'll be like a miniature organizer just for that group working with us. So if you're part of the LAPC or want to be part of the LAPC, check that out. Check the forums, the discussions, and let us know if you're interested. There'll be a form you can fill out to apply for that if you'd like.
Yeah,
Is that about everything, Scott, for as far as that goes?
I believe so.
Okay.
And
Earth Day Sunday.
Yep.
Go out, plant a tree, pick up trash.
Yeah, and you'll find the LAPC if you're not familiar with it. You'll find it on the channel page of the podcast.
So I think that's about all I got. Plenty of stuff coming up here.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully we will have another podcast for you in this upcoming month. And I guess that's all I got.
Yeah, so this is Thomas Punton.
And Grant Ridgeway, thanks for joining us.
Sign off. Blessed be.